ladies and gentlemen and robotics programmers, we're going to do Project 2B, the digital trumpet. All right, what we're going to do is this thing right there. All right, answer these questions. How does a button work? Page 42. So basically what I want you to do is pop over here to page 42 and figure out how, read these things and figure out how that stuff works. Okay, so go there and do that. If you don't know these things, ask me. If you don't know these things, ask me. Okay. Okay. On this next one, you're gonna have to watch a separate. You're gonna have to hit pause on this and watch a different video to answer what's the problem with the floating pin. There's a video that could do it probably as way better than I could. So I'm gonna have you do it this way. So basically, go to Classroom and this first video here, watch this. It's only 3 minutes. At first, like you're watching it, it's like, what's this guy talking about? This doesn't make sense. But watch it all the way through. By the time you're done, I think it makes sense. And if it still doesn't make sense by the time you're done, talk to me and I'll show it to you. I'll explain it to you on the board or something better. But make sure you understand that. Watch that video about pull-up resistors, and then answer these questions. All right, what is pseudocode and why do we use it? Okay, we're going to look at page 44. Where's page 44? I don't know what page is this. Oh, page 44 is right here. Okay, so here's the program overview. So you're gonna wire this thing up like this, right? If you press this button, it's gonna go. If you press this button, it's gonna go. If you press this button, it's gonna go. And if you press no button, it's not gonna do anything, right? So check to see if the first button is pressed. If it is, play the frequency for C. If it isn't, skip to the next else if statement. Okay, so if we're not pressing this one, look to this one. Check to see if the second button is pressed. If it is, play the frequency E. If it isn't, skip to the next else if statement. And then oh yeah, look, that third one is pressed. See if the third button is pressed. If it is, play the frequency for G. So we're gonna actually play the G. And then let's say that nobody was touching anything at all. Well then, if none of the if statements are true, turn the buzzer off. All right. This is pseudocode. This is the logic for what we're gonna be coding. Right? That's the logic for what we're gonna be coding. It's just in English instead of in the programming language, right? Instead of the Arduino programming language. So that's called pseudocode. So the idea is you, instead of like, oh, I don't know the Java, or I don't know the Arduino language, I don't know how to do it. Well, you start off in English and figure out the logic of it, and then you convert it into Java or Arduino. So let's jump back over here. What is pseudocode? It's when you try to solve the problem using half Java and half English, or half code and half English, to try to figure out the logic. Why do we use it? It's so that we can solve the problem without the complication of having to use the Java or the Arduino language, because we might like, well, I don't know. I have the idea, but I don't know the actual language piece, so we use English. Okay. All right. So operators, just write this down in your notes. Operators are special symbols that represent computations like addition and multiplication. So here's the assignment operator. Put this number inside the box, make this equal to that. This thing right here is called a comparison operator, equals. Is this thing equal to that? And then we have other things called logical operators, and, or, and not. But these are just things that we use throughout coding that allow us just to code. We couldn't really do a whole lot without them. In this one, we're going to use the assignment operator and the comparison operator. This is also known as the is equal to operator. Here's some common operators: plus, minus, times, is greater than, is less than, is less than or equal to, is greater than, equal to, is equal to, is not equal to, or, and, okay, so on and so forth. All right. How do we write the is equal to operator? Right there, equal. What does it mean? Well, it's asking the question. Well, we're going to look at it in a second. It's asking the question, is this equal to the other thing? All right, so hook it up. Make sure you follow page 43 in the book. Okay, so now hit pause on this video, come over here to page 43 and set it up just like this. All right, now let's code it. Okay, so before we do, we have to write. Oh wow, what's this? I'm gonna hit pause here. This doesn't look right. All right. So don't write this down, but write this down. If else statement executes the segments of the first segment. The first segment of code whose condition is true. Only one segment is executed. If no conditions are true, it executes the else statement. All right, so basically it's an if, then you put your condition, and then your whatever your code is here, whatever you want to happen, else if, your condition, whatever you want to have happen, else this. So if this is true, it does this, skips this and this. If this is not true, and it jumps down to this one, and then if this one's true, it does this one. If this one's not true, it jumps down to the next one. And then finally, if none of the conditions are true, it does the else. So one of these things is going to happen for sure, never two. So it's either this one or this one or this one. One of them is going to happen for sure, but not two. Okay, write this down. All right, we're going to use this in our, all right, so what image will be set in the following code? Well, private int score, we have a box on the right. We just declared a variable called int. It's called score. It only holds whole numbers. Score equals 10, so now score is holding 10. So score plus equals 2, so it means we're adding 2 to whatever's in score. So now score equals 12. Is 12 greater than 11? No, it's going to skip this. Wait, is score greater than... Yeah, sorry, I'm sorry. Is 12 great? What am I doing? Is 12 greater than 11? Yes. So it's going to set the image to image 2. It's going to skip this else if. It's going to skip this else. So this happens. This doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. All right. All right. Don't answer this yet. Let's do some coding before we get to this. All right. So let's get some coding done here. All right. So here's what we've actually been waiting for. You've been waiting for us to do some code. All right. So open up this code, save it in your folder with your name on it. And this is where we're going to put in this is the instance variable declaration. This is where we're going to set stuff up. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our pin. So we're going to come over here and we're going to type in int first pin equals 2. So we set our instance variable first key pin, set it equals a 2. It only can hold whole numbers. And we're going to go ahead and get our next ones, and we'll type these in here after that. Okay, now this one is set. We're going to put a space between it because these are our inputs, and this one is an output. And we'll look at that in a second. Okay, but we have our instance variable declaration. We're creating our little boxes in the RAM. We're just holding stuff. So right now we have a box in the RAM named buzzer pin. The only thing that can go into that box is a whole number, and we're using the assignment operator to put a 10 in there. All right, now let's go down to our setup. We're going to create the constructor here. All right, so the first one's done for you. Pin mode, first key pin, input pull up. So we're setting this thing. So we're setting for our first key pin, which is 2. We're setting up pin 2 as an input pull up. So basically, we're setting it up for a buzzer, and it has that little pull-up resistor already automatically attached. So what does it mean that the input is a pull-up? It has that resistor attached. It means it's set up for a buzzer. So what's the difference between an input and output? Well, this one is reading information. The output is sending. So like if a signal's coming in, it can tell if a signal's coming in either on or off. And the output is sending electricity out. All right, let's get the rest of our pin modes in. We're going to type these in with me. So we'll go right here and type this in. Pin mode, second key pin, same thing, it's a pull up. And then we're going to do our third key pin as well. Okay, so that is our constructor. So we're setting everything up. We have our 3 inputs for our 3 buttons, and then we have our 1 output that's going to send a signal out to the buzzer connected to pin number 10. All right, now let's come down to our loop. Let's come down to our loop. Okay, so we have our loop started here. It starts here, ends here. So this is our This is like the act method of the game loop. This is the thing that actually happens over and over again. And so here we're going to start our if statement. So we're going to come over here and we're going to say if, and we're going to say digital read, and we're going to read the first pin. So we're going to go inside here, and we're going to say first key pin. Okay, and you're going to use the comparison operator, and we're going to say not plus plus. Is it equal to low? And close that. Okay, so we started it, and we ended it. All right, so what are we going to do if it's low? Okay, well, if the circuit is, we're going to come down here, we're going to do our opening curly brace, and we're going to come down here and do our closing curly brace. This is kind of awkward to do with the commas already there. But what are we going to do? We're going to set the tone. Now, we used this before, so the tone is going to be buzzer pin, comma. Okay, so we're going to set the buzzer pin. So pin 10 is going to be 262, and we're going to close that, and that is going to be, we're going to play a C. Okay, I don't like the way I did this. I kind of messed. I'm gonna cut this. Cut this. Control X. I'm gonna put it here. Okay, and then this. I'm gonna cut this. Sorry, I did this kind of backwards. Bear with me. You can fast forward this if you want to. This little section here. You were gonna anyway. Okay, so play the frequency. Play with frequency C. So if they're pressing the first pin, so low, low means it's on. We already talked about that. But if it's high, it means it's off. If the button's not being pressed. If it's low, it means the button is being pressed. Okay, so check this out, though. Here's something to think about. We have this code here, tone buzzer pin 626. Look at this. This is what we had in lesson A. We had 1, 2, 3 parameters, and here we only have 2 parameters. What's going on? Well, in this one, we had the beat length. So we told it how long, like, oh, play this note for this long, right? Here, we're not telling it how long. So how long is it going to play? Forever. So if you press that button, it's going to play forever unless we do something. I'll show you how we get it to not play forever, right? But we're missing, so this tone method can work with either 2 or possibly 3 parameters. Okay. All right, let's go to the next part. So we're going to do our else if. Okay, so right here, we're going to type in else if. So we have if they're playing the first key, do this, opening and closing. Else if we're playing the second pin, so then we have our opening curly brace. Come down here, we have our closing curly brace, and then what do we do if they're doing the second pin? We're going to play the E. So we're going to copy this, and right here we're gonna play 330, which is a tone for an E, and then we have our else if again. So if we're playing the third key, the third pin button, what are we going to do? We're going to have in our opening curly brace, we're having our closing curly brace, and then if we're doing the third one, we're going to play the G. So here's the code for the G. And now, if we left it just like this, if I pressed a button, it'd play forever, but what we're going to do is we're going to finish up with an else. Right here, we're going to end our else, we're going to have our opening curly brace. We're going to come down here and we'll do our closing curly brace. And then this is a new method call, and it's going to be no tone buzzer pin. So basically, hey, on pin 10, play no tone, so it turns it off. So one of these things is going to happen. It's either you have the first pin, you're going to play the C. If it's the second pin, you're going to play the E. If you're pressing the third key, you're going to play the G, and otherwise you're going to play no tone. Let me verify this and see if I made any errors. And I did. Let me see if I can figure out what I did wrong. And the problem was I needed a semicolon here. I know this is a method call, and you always have to do parentheses, parentheses, semicolon. All right, and that should do it. Okay, let's take a look at let's look at our spiel. Let's look at our last question here. And if the circuit is being complete when you press the button, why is it low? All right, so if we come over here to our code, so the low means on, and that's because of the particular kind of circuit that we have. So when you press the button, it actually is sending the power somewhere else, so it's reading low or no power. What's the next quiz question here? Let's finish that next quiz question. And what is the equal thing called? What's the difference between? All right, let's jump back over here. We'll answer those questions. So we have here is the assignment operator. We're saying, hey, you equal this. We're sticking a 2 in the box. This is asking a question. Is this equal to this? So if I look at the first key pin, am I getting a on or an off? Okay, am I getting a signal or a no signal? Okay, let's go finish up here. I think that's it. All right. Good luck.